Good morning and welcome. We will be starting service at 10 a.m. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Julianne Lepp. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning, and I'm minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Eau Claire. Welcome to UUC's virtual services. We will be doing virtual services at least through May 2021 due to COVID-19. We're so glad you joined us this morning. Today we will be exploring the mind of love. And Rumi was a mystic poet from the 13th century in Persia. He's been characterized as one of the unsurpassingly most mystic poets of humankind. In fact, he is extremely well known. His work, written in the Sufi tradition, is an exploration into the meaning and miracles of love. So how do we connect to the mind of love? How do we see love in the stories of our lives? Come, let us worship together.
Welcome to UUC's virtual service. I'm Allison Oliphant, today's worship associate and a member of this congregation, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to this place. This is a home where no revealed truths are promoted and no scripture or human being accepted as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. But we are believers. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in commitment to those ideals which make us caring and active in the struggles for human dignity. We are Unitarian Universalists. Today we will explore the mind of love. Jalaluddin Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet, has been characterized as one of the unsurpassable mystic poets of mankind. His work, written in the Sufi tradition, is an exploration into the meaning and miracles of love. How do we connect to the mind of love, see love in the stories of our lives?
And now Ken Adler will share a special announcement with us.
Hi, everyone. This is Ken Adler from the Social Responsibility. with providing food at the Beacon House and serving at the Sojourner House a week ago. It's really, those organizations couldn't function without your help, and you've done a really big community service. So thanks for that. And now for the big event announcement for today is that our 50-50 Share the Plate recipient for the month of October is the Eau Claire Area School District Homeless Program. This is run by Danny Klaspis, who is a member of our congregation. And this is quite a big deal. At any time, there are 70 or more students in the Eau Claire School District who are living in cars, living in motels, maybe couch surfing, or staying at the Beacon House or Western Dairyland family homeless shelters. And the homeless program works to make sure that they have all of the tools available so that they can succeed in the school system. So for example, they coordinated the backpack program that our congregation worked with this fall. They also have to provide transportation for appointments and things like that for the students, and food and clothing and a lot of very basic supplies for people. Along that line, if you do have extra winter clothing or other clothing that could be useful for students, they would appreciate if you dropped that off at the school district building, which is right up the hill from where our congregation hall is. They need a lot of winter boots this winter, as well as snow pants, and of course, money is always helpful for them to get supplies too. Any money that we donate in the 50-50 Share the Plate to them this month will only be going towards services and towards supplies for students. In other words, they have a 0% overhead as far as the money that we donate. So this is a very worthy cause, and I hope that you'll give generously during our offering period today and the rest of the month.
Hello, my name is Ann Schell. I'm a liaison to the board this year. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all who treasure the freedom of conscience in the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you will follow our UUC Facebook page and stay tuned for other events such as Wonderful Wednesdays and Sunday morning meditation. There are religious exploration classes for adults and small groups for support and interests like book club. Also, families can follow our UUC Religious Exploration Facebook page. There are religious exploration classes for 4K through 9th grade and youth group every Wednesday online for middle school and high school. We're so glad you joined us today.
Good morning. I'm Martha Munger.
And I'm Don Mowry. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast, and our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline.
This flame is our promise that in our smallness, in our short life, time on earth, that we live intently and deeply, with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a sense of shared responsibility. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we'll ever know.
This reading is by David Ruffin. So, what do you want to do with your life? There was a time when this question haunted me like an existential crisis. Some might call it being in my 20s, but I certainly didn't feel that such pain was just to be expected. I remember poring over inspirational books. I found few answers, but I did find friends. Parker Palmer assured me that feelings of depression were not only normal, but a gift that could lead me deeper and help me let my life speak. Khalil Gibran reframed my present pain as something that was carving space for future joy. Mary Oliver proclaimed her gospel, "You do not have to be good." And Rainer Maria Rilke urged patience, with everything unresolved in my heart, to love the questions themselves. Most importantly, I learned I had good company in struggling to find my way. Encouraged by these connections, my creative energy began to return, and soon I was on the move, zigging and zagging, to be sure, but following my heart. In time, I was New York City bound, following my dream of legal temping. Acting. But the legal temping, along with countless early mornings, shivering in lines for theater auditions that were already cast, was living the dream. I was following my passion, and in time, I began to find work. Still, was it my purpose? I remember my deep recognition watching the musical Avenue Q as Princeton, the protagonist puppet, opened the drama with the question of questions. What do you do with a BA in English? Princeton continues, everyone else has a purpose, so what's mine? Gotta find out, don't want to wait. Got to make sure that my life will be great. Got to find me. Fast forward, I was on the 50th anniversary European tour of West Side Story, and I was Tony. It was the pinnacle of my career in a role that felt meant for me. But I was struggling. We were playing Vienna with Paris around the corner, and I was dogged by a sinus infection, struggling with the famous high notes of Maria and fearing the consequences. Soon they came, a ticket back home. I was devastated. I'd overcome depression, followed my passion, and put in my time. I had practically felt the glow of my parents' pride as I imagined them watching me on stage at Le Châtelet, but it wouldn't be. Instead, I experienced love anyway. A dear friend who traveled to see me holding my hand, castmates' tears transforming my own, Vienna's autumn leaves enveloped me in a golden. My parents' even greater pride in my courage facing this loss. Words penned in a journal entry, I am called to ministry. I used to think that finding my purpose meant finding a tiny intersection point between my passion and the world's need. Then I took faith that the world needed passionate people, as Howard Thurman says, people who have come alive. But the greatest learning has come from feeling my fears, my losses, my dreams, and even my quest to find me, transformed through the experience of finding and feeling we, discovering my identity as one who is loved and loves passionately. This has been to come alive. What do I want to do with my life? Embrace it.
Now is the time in our service where we share our joys and concerns. We can post them in the chat, and if you have something that you would like to share with a lay minister or myself, you can also contact us after service. In this time, we embrace our feelings, our dreams, our hopes, and especially in this loving community, we seek to care for one another. I know that it's different doing church in the time of COVID. You know, we have to try and create intimacy online, or do it distance, or call one another, or message one another. But we are still people that care, that love, that hold, that weep, that cry. So I hope you will share your joys and concerns right now with us and feel supported in this space. I'm going to have a brief moment of silence while you think about what is on your heart to share. Allison Oliphant shares that she has a new nephew born this week, Oren Howard Oliphant. Congratulations. And also Megan Fuccelli and Frank Fuccelli welcomed a new baby boy. Hawthorne was born, and we are so excited to have our youngest member of the congregation, as she put it. And I'm looking at our Facebook Joys and Concerns. Laura and Dawn are celebrating 7 years married and 17 years married together. It's a joy. Definitely a joy. I am grateful for all of the time that was spent on yesterday. That's Saturday. I have to get my head around the days. Outside, it was the most beautiful day. So I have a joy for nature. On Saturday morning, the Crossing Paths kids with Ken Adler and Alana Peck, they did a slack line and they talked about Judaism and did slacklining. That's a very Ken Adler and Alana way to teach crossing paths. And I went on a small walk with Ralph Edwards. It was lovely. And we got to see the leaves, and his dog was a lot of fun. Well, thank you for all the joys and concerns that you've shared. And I hope that you continue to have support and know that we are with you in the here and now. If you'll please join me with these words to close out joys and concerns, you can say them at home. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you so much for that. We are going to move now to a reading with Allison Oliphant.
This reading is Humans' Core Function is Love by Adrienne Marie Brown. Adrienne Marie Brown is a women's rights activist and Black feminist based in Detroit. When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. The love in romance that makes us want to be better people, the love of children that makes us change our whole lives to meet their needs, the love of family that makes us drop everything to take care of them, the love of community that makes us work tirelessly with broken hearts. Perhaps humans' core function is love. Love leads us to observe in a much deeper way than any other emotion. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through eyes of love. We would see that there's no such thing as a blank canvas, an empty land, or a new idea, but everywhere there is complex, ancient, fertile ground full of potential. We would understand that the strength of our movement is in the strength of our relationships, which could only be measured by their depth. Scaling up would mean going deeper, being more vulnerable and more empathetic.
So this morning we're talking about Rumi. We are cultivating the mind of love, and that sounds very highfalutin. How are you going to cultivate the mind of love? You're going to pour seeds on your brain or your heart and grow this love. But it's true. We can cultivate a thought, a feeling, a state of being. And part of that is seeing ourselves in one another. A minister friend of mine was wearing a mask, and she went into um, her local grocery store, and her mask had the candidate that she prefers, and she saw someone else, and it was kind of like one of those moments where you hear the doo doo, the whistle or something, and a standoff. She saw this other guy across the way, and he had a mask with the name of the person she didn't prefer for, and so they were standing there eyeing each other, and she nodded respectfully, and he nodded respectfully, and said, "Hey, Missy, I think your candidate is gonna," or no, he said, "Hey, sister, I think your candidate has it." And her mind was blown, not just because of the exchange, but because of the respect. And being called sister felt so good. It felt so good to be called sister instead of, "Hey, you who has different opinions, you're a piece of garbage," or whatever it is that we think because somebody disagrees with us. And that can be hard because I think, um, there are some beliefs that threaten our very existence. If people don't think that LGBTQ people are of worth, that can be an attack on human dignity. And so it is challenging to cultivate a mind of love when there is so much disagreement in our culture. But, we think about this has gone on for ages, and we think about the parable of the Good Samaritan. The least likely person who helps the person in trouble was the person who helped you. And I remember one time when I was in college and I was with a bunch of friends. We had gone camping, and um, we were stuck on the side of the road because, of course, being in college, my friend had a not so reliable car, and we were on the side of the road, just totally. It was before cell phones, so we were thinking we were going to have to hike to the, or at least before we had cell phones. We were thinking we had to hike to the next exit, and lo and behold, who comes along but Father Bird. And Father Bird was this lovely man who was a part of my childhood camp, and he told the best stories, and he just had one of those, just he, I think, cultivated the mind of love. But he was my good Samaritan, and at that point in my life, I had left church and was pretty skeptical of organized religion at all. And here he comes and shows up, and he's like, "Hey, Julie," and got our tire going, and it was wonderful. And so I think, Rumi talks about unexpected visitors, and in Allison's reading about David Ruffin, he said, "I used to think that finding my purpose meant finding a tiny intersection point between my passion and the world's need. And then I took faith that the world needed more passionate people," as Howard Thurman says, people who have come alive. And I think we can get really stuck in our own silos sometimes, that we don't recognize our interrelatedness with the rest of the world. And it can create divisions within families, divisions within ourselves. And what David Ruffin says, "The greatest learning has come from feeling my fears, my losses, my dreams, and even my quest to find me. It transformed me through the experience of finding and feeling we." I had to read that twice, and I even looked it up online again. Is that the correct way to do this reading? And it is. It's the feeling and finding of we. And that is a powerful feeling. I feel that when we've gathered in our sanctuary, we all sing together, and I'm learning to find it in these online spaces as what we can do during this time of COVID, that feeling of being together. But I want to feel that not just on a Sunday or when my family gathers for a meal. I want to feel that elsewhere as well. Rumi is a 13th century Sufi poet, and he wrote The Guest House. And in The Guest House, he invites us to view the lessons of unexpected visitors and what they might bring us. And whether they're human or emotions or thought, the unwelcome visitors can bring us lessons if we pay attention. He wrote, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows, who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." And I don't know about you, but when I hear that, I'm like, no, I'm not going to let you in my house. I don't want you in my house. And a guide from beyond? No, I'm in control. But it's true. We're not in control of every moment of our life. And just like the unexpected person in the grocery store with the mask, that was different. That if she hadn't looked that person in the eye with respect, what would have been different? And I think about I unexpectedly ran into Ralph on Saturday. We had a great walk and talk, and that was lovely. And I was thinking, oh, I need to do this, that, and the other. I was going to sit in my car and do things, but the best thing I could do is walk along that river and have a dog come up into my hand and lick my hand. And see the beautiful fall. And even the losses, I couldn't control that my mom died when I was 26. That was one of the most powerful things that happened in my life. And, I kept raging against, whoever made that happen and her for the health choices she made, but did it do any good? Not really. But those emotions, once I let go of my anger, um, learning from that loss was huge. It changed the course of my life. It's what brought me to this place. And I might have had a different life if she hadn't had that happen. Do I think that was a gift from God? No. I think that I embraced something that happened to me. And I think that's what I feel is the message from being human, being in this feast of sorrows, this feast of joys. We live in an imperfect world, and we are imperfect. And what we do with it is the power, and we can live our life full of I, and we often do. But when we get into that sense of we, I know for me, I love that connection and that feeling of not being alone on this little blue spinning dot, like Don and Martha were talking about. Life is a miracle. You think about Mars and Jupiter and Venus, and Mars once had life on it. Our planet currently has life on it, but we have to become a we if we're going to keep it going. If we're going to keep this little blue planet safe and habitable and beautiful. Rumi is an outstanding figure among Sufi masters, and it is said that he would go into this ecstatic state of intoxication in the marketplace upon hearing the ringing of blacksmith hammer on anvil. He would hear a sound and it would feel like a harmonized voice for the name of God, Allah, Allah. And then he would spontaneously whirl about, dancing to the melody that he heard. The order of the whirling dervishes was established by Rumi, and is known now throughout the world. So can you imagine that if you were at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning and someone just started doing ecstatic dancing? What would it bring you joy? Would it bring you fear? Would you want to join in? I think that, so often we are not listening. We're not listening to the moments that might happen. And that's sometimes how we meet our best friends, the loves of our lives, discover our passions and our joys. It's when we're paying attention and inviting things into our lives. He was influenced by the whirling dervish Sham al-Din, and Sham was someone that his family was extremely jealous of, and there's stories about how they might have killed him and all sorts of things. But Rumi began to see Sham as divine love, and really threw himself into poetry and the experience of finding God, finding the divine, and that ecstatic sense of living. He used to be an academic, and if he had never met Sham, he might never have written this gorgeous poetry that continues to influence people today, and probably our children's children. There's an essential theme in his poetry of longing and searching for union with the divine. And if you're someone who doesn't believe in the divine, you can find union in nature. You can find union in love and with people. And I think there's that sense of something greater than ourselves. Scientists feel it when they look at the stars and imagine, what is out there? What is life? What does it look like beyond this world? And ironically, Rumi said that no words could adequately explain this experience of mystical union. And perhaps you can relate. When I was out walking, looking at the leaves, I thought gold, orange, beautiful. Um, what's the right word? What's the right word? I'll take a picture. Maybe that would be the right word. But really, can you with one word describe the love you feel for a child, or the love you feel for a pet, or um, there's a time when words don't work, it's what you feel. So in Sufism, there is a delineated series of states or stations. The path moves the believer into the nearness of God and is done with the help of a teacher, and that's Shams for Rumi. And this idea of annihilation of self is it's not that your self is, unworthy, it's that you are trying to connect with everything, the oneness of everything. And for whirling dervishes, that's spinning. And for other belief systems, there are other ways to commune with the divine. So for Sufis, the ultimate reality is experienced in ecstatic communion and direct experience. And it so happens that our transcendentalist forebears invited us to that direct experience of awe and wonder. So what lessons are you hearing in your life? When you go outside, when you live life, are there things that you can invite in, whether, or even just to recognize that they're there? In the guest house, the Rumi is telling us that the entirety of human experience is valuable. None of it is to be discounted or written away. And I struggle with that. I think about, well, what about the really bad things that happen? And it's not that I definitely do not believe that there is a large God in charge making things happen. I think that we are definitely create a lot of our fate, and some of it is outside of our control. Car accidents, and then we try and affect the change that we can. But when bad things happen outside of my control, what is it that I can do? How can I learn from it? How can I be present to the grief, or to be present to the grief of others, like showing up for Black Lives Matter rallies and shutting up and listening, you know, listening to people who are first-time organizers or first-time speakers. I want to bring this poem, this being human as a guest house, into the idea of COVID-19. In an online forum, there was somebody by the name of Suba who said, "I'm in healthcare right now and work as a pain specialist. Every day in the morning before beginning my patient interactions, I read and reflect on Rumi's Guest House. It is a ritual that helped me gain clarity and approach each day with compassion towards self and my interactions with others." And he went on to write this poem. He said, "May I remember this for you, with you, but may I know that I can never carry any for you. May I be moved yet resilient for our collective struggles. May we discover that city, that lost trail that rejuvenates every time. May I be the rock, timeless and enduring at once. May I learn that in silence that we breathe reassured. May I be the canvas to paint, to spill and pour. May I also be there when it all peels off and withers away. May I be the sieve to filter, sort, and reflect. May I see it different but never know more or better. May I have a moment of light that I share with you in privilege, that sense of familiar with you, a stranger, that makes it all worth it at once, forever. Maybe it would be a scavenger hunt, I with a list and you with a discover. May we all find what we are looking for as we part with our shades on. May I know that humbling truth, that honor has always been mine to nurture, to grow, and in these moments of light and darkness and rainbows. Yeah, being present with people, present with yourself, present with nature. I think of chaplains and doctors and pain specialists and teachers, being present with people who are struggling. In Thich Nhat Hanh's Cultivating the Mind of Love, there is the Diamond Sutra. And the Diamond Sutra records a conversation between the Buddha and his disciple, Subhuti. And Subhuti asks if sons and daughters want to give rise to the highest, most filled, awakened mind, what should they rely on? And what should they do to master their thinking? This was asked knowing that the beginning of this desire to bring ourselves and others to the shore of happiness and freedom, is the start to awakening. Buddha's answer was, however many species of living things there are, whether born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously, whether they have form or do not have form, whether they have perceptions or they do not have perceptions, we must lead all those beings to nirvana so that they can be liberated. To take care of and that's the end of the quote, to take care of ourselves, we take care of those around us. We're interrelated. And so Thich Nhat Hanh talks about the person, the notion that being a person, we are also not distinguished from the non-person, such as tree, deer, or squirrel. The idea of being a person is to be transcended, because without trees, where would we be? Without fruit, water, and sky, where would we be? We're all related. This being human is a guest house. This form, is temporary and is connected to, my coffee came from beans made by farmers, not made by farmers, farmed by farmers, and brought to me by trucks. Christian mystics understand love as the core reality and of their thoughts. And Gregory the Great said, love itself is a form of knowing. William of St. Thierry said, in the contemplation of God, where love is chiefly operative, reason passes into love and is transformed into a certain and spiritual divine understanding, which transcends and absorbs all reason. It's that experience, that ecstatic joy. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And I hope you meet someone in the grocery store with a t-shirt or a mask and they call you sister or brother or fellow human being. And I hope that we can do that in the months ahead and heal some of this, not letting go of our ideals, but to recognize that we are interrelated, the good and the bad, and to call each other in, not just call each other out. Amen. And now's the time for our giving. This haven, this refuge, this place of worship and wonder exists because we make it so with our contributions of gift and time, skills and service, our love and laughter. With gratitude for the abundance in our lives, we help people in need. Ken told us about the 50-50 Share Their Plate recipient, which is the Eau Claire School District Homeless Program. You can donate online at uueauclaire.com or text to give 84321. And checks can be mailed to UUC at 421 South Farwell Street. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Unmute.
Please join us in saying the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
For those of you who are watching on Facebook, I'm so glad that you joined us today. And those attending in Zoom, we're going to take a brief moment after we close service to share any deeper joys and concerns that were not shared during service in your own voice. And then we will move into choir and our breakout rooms. Our closing words are from Rumi. Our task is not to seek love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Thank you for joining us today. Go in peace and go in love.